Hello everybody, welcome to this C1 Advanced, that's CAE Writing Paper video course. In this video lesson we're going to have a look at the marking criteria that the examiners use when they are assessing your work. So let's get started. There are 4 key marking criteria that the examiners use. These are content, communicative achievement, organisation, and language. So what does content mean? In order to get top marks for the content, you need to make sure that you have answered all the parts of the question. Not half of the question, but all of the different elements of the question. You also need to make sure that everything you write is relevant to the question. Do not start writing about something which is different to the question. Try to stay as focused as you can on the different elements of the question. You also need to think about your target reader. Who are you writing for? And we will look at this for the different types of writing in the later videos during this course, because you will see that you have different target readers depending on what type of writing you do. If the question has the words describe or explain, this means that you need to develop these points to try and inform the reader. So try and talk in detail to give information to the reader. If you are faced with an essay question, which you will be in part 1, you are free to agree or disagree with the opinions that are given in the task. Or, alternatively, you can discuss both sides of the argument. Those are 2 different and good approaches, particularly for part 1, the essay writing. You can put your side of the argument down in point 1, point 2, point 3, or alternatively, you can talk about both sides of the argument. This will depend on the words in the question. What is communicative achievement? You should make sure that you concentrate on the layout and tone of your writing. So for example, if you are writing an essay, you should make sure that your writing is formal and not personal. So don't use pronouns, for example, I think or I do, because you need to try and make it not personal and formal. And again, this will depend on the different writing task that you do. If you're doing a part 2 review, for example, then your writing will be different and you can write in a more personal tone. You need to make sure that your writing captures and holds the reader's attention. A lot of CAE students try to write long and difficult sentences, but actually you can catch the reader's attention just by using a simple structure which is easy to follow. And it largely depends on the language that you are using. And again, the language you use will depend on who your target reader is. We will look at that more on the next slide. So your planning and your checking, but particularly your planning in the 5 minutes before you start your writing, will help you with this flow. And that helps to hold the reader's attention. Also, communicative purpose. You need to make sure that you look at the words in the question and make it obvious that you are answering these words. So if the question says make a complaint, you need to make sure that you are clearly stating that you are complaining about something. And a good way to do this is to use synonyms of the words in the question. So rather than saying complaint, you could say complaining. I am complaining, for example. And in order to achieve high marks for communicative achievement, you should use a combination of simple ideas, but also some more complex ideas. So while you should keep a simple structure for your writing, you should try to use a few more grammatically complicated structures to show some more complex ideas, if you can. Because the wider variety of language you can show, if you execute it well, you will get higher marks. Criteria number 3, organization. You should use some simple linking words and phrases, for example, and or but, because, first of all and finally. But you should also use some complex linking words and phrases. This is showing your variety of language. For example, words like moreover, or it may appear, or as a result. You should make sure that your writing has a logical flow, so that the reader can see where they're going. Okay, so this point to this point to this point, it makes sense. And here are some extra ideas for part 1, the essay writing. You can save the most important sentence in a paragraph for the last sentence. And you can also use something called parallelism, which is where you keep the verb tenses the same in a sentence if possible. This helps with understanding and with reading and with the flow of your writing. And marking criteria number 4 is language. You should use a range of vocabulary, showing some everyday vocabulary, but also some more complex vocabulary. Good things to use and to revise before the exam are collocations, fixed phrases and expressions. And if you buy a good course book, for example the one that I will recommend with this course, and I will put a link in the description with this video, this book will teach you some of the really important grammar, but also vocabulary, collocations and expressions to use. So collocations and fixed phrases are really important, and so is using a range of grammar, simple and complex. For example, relative clauses or modal forms are really useful, and they should be some of the grammar ideas that you try to incorporate in your writing if you can. And if you look at the contents and study with a good course book, for example this one, it will teach you some of the really good vocabulary and grammar that you need to know, and that will be good to use in the writing part of the exam. So I advise you to pause this video for a moment, type this address into your internet browser and buy this book, and then you can use it with the rest of these video lessons if you haven't bought it already. It's a really great additional resource to have. And when you're writing, you should try to make sure that the errors that you make are small and that they don't impede communication. Which means if you have a mistake, try to make sure that it doesn't interrupt the flow of your writing. So a spelling mistake is much better than a punctuation mistake, where maybe you put a full stop in the middle of a sentence. That would be so confusing and it would disrupt the communication. And again, your checking at the end of your writing will help you to avoid some of these errors. So some final points: try to use range with accuracy, be consistent, and try to use a variety of different words for the same idea, so you don't use the same word lots of times. And what you can see on this slide is the writing scale that the examiners use. So each of the 4 marking criteria are based on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being excellent and 0 being not good. So I advise you to pause this video now and have a look at this table. It might be easier for you to read it if you type in this web address into your internet browser, for example Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or Safari, etc. If you type this web address in and go to page 36, you will find this scale here, and have a read of it, because it will help you to understand what the examiners are looking for in order for you to get top marks, which is 5 for all of the 4 marking criteria. And we will look at this in more detail in the following lessons when we're focusing on the Part 1 and Part 2 writings. Okay, so thanks for watching this video lesson, and in the next video lesson I'm going to introduce you to Part 1 of the writing paper, which is the essay. So see you in the next lesson, guys. Bye bye.